Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Disc Connected. And I am here with Mr. Elijah Drenner, who is a producer extraordinaire, a director, a writer, a film historian, and a wonderful person with probably 37 other titles that I could throw on there, and they would all be accurate. Elijah, thanks for coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm noticing a pattern, especially recently with some of the guests that I've been speaking to, that everybody seems to just kind of be helping everybody out. Is that something that you're seeing on your side of the fence too? Because it seems like this whole home video industry is just this big team lately, and not to get kumbaya about it, it feels nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all very incestuous too. I mean, we all know each other.
Very.
I mean, it's a very small group of people. I mean,
Right.
know Jonathan at Fun City from Kino. I know David Gregory from Severin because of Blue Underground. I know Mike
Right.
Felcher because of everything else, and Dan Griffith. It's like there's just a very small group of us who all
Right.
do the same thing, and it's much more beneficial to just all know each other and all work symbiotically than be against one another.
I agree. And I would understand it if there's a little bit of competition to at least gain the title. But then once somebody has signed that title, it seems like everybody's just a champion of, oh, well, finally, this is getting a great release.
I personally am relieved when I don't have to do something. Or, as I often say, when we're trying to get people for interviews, it's like, if we get the interview, awesome. If we don't, awesome.
It's a win-win attitude. I love that. Obviously, one of the things that people are going to know the name Elijah possibly from over the last few years is Dekanalog. These are some of the titles.
Yours is the same as mine. Look at that. I think. What do you got there? It's like.
I think I've got 6 out of the 8 available.
Is that right? Is that? You know what? I'm not seeing Amigo here. Amigo must be up to watch pile downstairs.
You've got keep an eye out, and mine is so buried that I don't know which shelf it's on at the moment.
Keep an eye out for it.
I'm trying.
Right.
You kind of came on as a partner label at an interesting time because it was this time when there was a lot of partner labels coming on, and I'm curious how that felt for you, but also just how Dekanalog was formed. Can you share the story behind that?
How Dekanalog was formed? Well, it started with George and George Schmalz, who I met at Kino Lorber, who then went to, I don't know his exact trajectory, but he was eventually at Kickstarter and ran the film side of Kickstarter.
Oh, wow.
And through George, we did a campaign. He did this restoration initiative with a bunch of different films and filmmakers. I believe Kino's, I'm not going to say anything because I could be wrong, but there was a bunch of, one of them that we did was Bloody Friday, the German crime thriller movie, sort of the German Dog Day Afternoon. So we restored that one, and there was a Kelly Reichardt movie, and there was a movie about a neighborhood in the Bronx, I think. So there was a lot of different stuff. But we knew George and I were friends before that. So he eventually came back to Kino. I don't know how many years ago it was, but he and I have always stayed in contact, and we originally wanted to start doing soundtracks, like vinyl soundtracks, which is where analog kind of came from. But he was also talking about, well, he was at Metrograph. He was at Metrograph in New York, the theater there, booking stuff there.
Nice.
He was seeing a lot of stuff come in, getting passed up, and he knew that we could put out a lot of really great movies. And he started sharing them with me, and it's like, this is great, and we should do a record company and a movie company. So why don't we just call the whole thing Dekanalog? It's a cool name. I kind of took it from Decalogue anyway, a movie, and we were all doing foreign movies anyway, so that seems kind of right. It's kind of retro. Sounds neat. Let's just call the whole thing. We've done one record, The Take Me Somewhere Nice soundtrack, a 10-inch, which was a Kickstarter campaign. So we did another Kickstarter campaign for This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection, which is on Criterion, not through OCN. That's a different story. And we hope to just keep doing this stuff because it's stuff that George and I are both big collectors. We like this stuff. We want to have these things. We love what the OCN model is. I already knew and have been working with Vinegar Syndrome since they basically began, so it's not like I didn't know anybody. And it seemed perfectly normal to just do it.
That makes sense. And again, when it's that family aspect, you kind of just get pulled into the fold, and everybody's there to support each other as much as they can. And with these releases especially, it's felt like that. It's felt like something where some of these probably would not have had a big impact that perhaps OCN has given a chance to. And one of those that really got me interested in Dekanalog, if that's okay, is Detention. This was, I think, the second release, right?
I'm trying to remember. It was either second or third. I feel like it was the second because Keep an Eye Out was in November and December was Detention. So yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
I just realized there were spine numbers. I could have looked at that. So with Detention,
it's like
right.
I get it.
Well, I'm sure you do a lot of things out of order on that side too. With Detention, this is one of the first ones that kind of woke me up to diving 100% into the whole special feature side. I always had, like, with the commentaries, or if somebody was super interesting on a visual essay perhaps, but Detention, I watched this movie and felt like the most ignorant American in the world and went, what the hell don't I know about? And it sent me on like a week-long research crusade of what happened to the civilization, and I loved it. I loved that feeling of educating myself because of falling in love with the film. And I just want to thank you for that. It was a really great time to spurn that for me.
Well, I mean, thank you. I didn't make it. I just knew that people would want to see it, and so did George. And we get these titles, and sometimes we're fortunate. And this was something that we both saw a screener link for, and no one had it. It's like, well, let's just try to get it. Yeah. I didn't know anything about the history either. I don't think you need to know about it to watch the movie, but it certainly helps, and it makes the drama of the story far more impactful when you really know about it, and really how, even though it's an international movie, it's something that is prescient, with American culture as well. No, it's a great movie. I mean, I don't have to bang the drum for you. It's like, it's really great. But it also kind of scratches that itch. What George and I really loved are all those tartan DVDs in the 90s. It's like we want to bring back that tartan vibe. And there's a lot of stuff out there that hasn't come out yet, including some tartan titles that we're trying to get, and let's just see what happens.
Funny enough, that kind of is in line with one of the questions I was going to ask, so I'll just jump right to it. Is a lot of these are Asian films, and they are playing across a wide array of genres, but somehow when I watch them, I get this odd, it's not like a shared vibe between them, but you can tell it's curated with this impeccable taste, like, if I can say it like that. But it's just so well done. Is it something that you were trying to go for mostly Asian, or is this what the label has just seen as available at the time so far?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, there are some titles that we've passed on that we don't really think fits our, the mission that we have. With
Right.
Air Doll, that's a Koreeda movie. It's like, it's like we need to have more Koreeda out there. So get it. It's a different movie than a lot of his other stuff, but I still think the feeling and the spirit is there. And there's a sadness to it that I really like. There's a sadness to Detention. There's a sadness to KFC, but maybe that's just inherent in the movies themselves. We've got another feature that we got the rights to called Streetwise, which is a gangster film, but again, it has this sort of melancholy vibe to it. That's going to be coming out. I'm not sure when. I only do the home video side, so I'm not sure when the theatrical is happening for Streetwise, but it'll be this year, and the Blu-ray is inevitable. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next, but it'll happen, and it's a great movie.
Nice. Sadness. It's kind of hard in a month that I just watched this to not talk about sadness. I've not heard many people talking about Amigo yet. Would you mind sharing like what you feel about this film, like a short synopsis for everybody?
Well, that's a little bit different because I wasn't too involved with that one. That was a conjunction between Dekanalog and Raven Banner. Raven Banner had the rights to it. They wanted to join forces with us to release it on home video. They did. And that's basically it. I had really nothing to do with any of the special features, any of the minutia that I normally have involved with. I've watched the movie. I think it's great. I did, I think, have some sort of say in the menu designs a little bit, but if you put it on, I mean, I think there's even a Raven Banner logo up in the. Yep. So it's a Dekanalog, but it's also a Raven Banner title. So it's we might do more of those with them. I don't know yet, but as of right now, that's the first and only.
I mean, you're doing great with these transitions for me because I followed Raven Banner for a little while. They I don't know if you saw it, that film Psycho Gorman a couple of years ago. They were the first one on the home video side that really pushed it and championed it, and then of course Shudder got an RLJE and everybody else. But yeah, I've loved Raven Banner for a few years, so I was excited to see that there might be a potential partnership there. That's pretty cool.
I hope so. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think they're looking to get their names out there, and if they do partner with us, I think it's just a test. I'm speculating this is just a test to have their own partner label, perhaps. I don't know.
Interesting. You mentioned that you do the home video side. One thing that I got to bring up, the imagery on a lot of these is so damn stark, and like the back of this slipcover, everything, it is so well done. How much are you controlling that or having a say in that, and how are you finding your artists? Because I feel like you guys are killing on the art side right now.
Well, this is a lot. It's a mix of things, I will say. Lisa Lee is our graphic designer. She's George's wife, and she has impeccable taste. Everything she does is brilliant. She will take either existing art or we will reach out to other artists to do things. In the case of Amigo, Raven Banner found that artist, and I wasn't really involved in that conversation. So it was pretty much happening. It was happening regardless. I did see some stuff, and we all kind of felt the same way, and we settled on those. But I will say with Amigo, that went through the most back and forth in terms of what artwork it should be. The artist, I don't believe, had done something like this before. Most of the artists that do these sort of things, they get it. Like the gentleman who did Dashra, I'm forgetting his name right now, he just knew what to do. Nice. So it just came, it's like no notes. It's like, you got it, done and dusted. Amigo took a lot back and forth. Detention, again, it was the same artwork. It was, I'm pretty sure it was the poster, like the Asian poster for it. Yep. Keep an eye out. Well, we like faces, as you can see.
Yeah.
I'm saying, it's like, I think sometimes you just need a face. And, like the first one was that, I remember with Keep an Eye Out, we were trying to determine, what is that image? And how do you break down a Quentin Dupieux movie in an image? And it's not easy.
No.
He doesn't want to give anybody anything. I feel like his posters are very vague, and in fact, the internal image is like the French poster, which is a joke maybe in France, but not here. So he did like what we came up with for the Keep an Eye Out, which was just in the elements that he gave us to use, we had a high-res scan of that character's ID. So that's literally just like a still from the character's ID.
Nice.
One half of his glass.
Yeah, the faces idea I think is really cool, because nowadays, especially on the OCN side, I could see the potential. Like in March, I think there were 14 partner label releases plus 4 Vinegar Syndrome releases. That's kind of hard to stick out from that crowd a little bit, I'm sure. And if you've got a cover like this, this is a memorable one. This is one that will make people go, oh gosh, what is that? Because I want to see it.
Yeah, and I think too, I look at all of them and I've said this before, and it's not meant to be a criticism, but there's a shotgun blast approach to each month. Yep. You know what I mean? And how do you stand out from the rest? Well, it starts to have the letter A be your first title. And it really helps to have some kind of mystery. And maybe, I feel like I could be wrong, but I don't think aside from Take Me Somewhere Nice, and maybe Dasher, and I guess KFC too, so maybe I'm wrong, but trying to put the titles on the covers of those faces.
I've noticed, yeah.
That'll change for the one we have coming up this summer. Actually, most of them coming up this year. But those I think are good titles regardless. Like you don't need the mystery. You actually need the title. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to. You have no idea what else is coming out that month from somebody else. You have no idea. So you just have to trust that you've got a really good title and make something that I want, George wants, Lisa wants. So that's what we try and do.
Well, it's been feeling great. So thank you for everything that you've been doing at Dekanalog. I've been loving Champion, some of the releases on this line, and Amigo, again, one of the most successfully anxiety-inducing films I've felt in quite some time.
Yeah, great.
Felt very dirty watching it. Felt very worried about my future and knowing stages of life that certain family members are at. It is a very compelling story, but man, once you get, I think it's about 40 minutes deep into that movie, and that scene happens, that movie takes a wide swing that I just loved.
Yeah, I mean, shot it in 10 days,
which is crazy.
It's a brilliant movie. There's no doubt about it. And I hadn't heard of it when the Raven Banner thing came to us, but I was all in. I mean, I think I saw it, I don't know, within a month or so of actually getting this thing moving ahead and, trusting George, trusting Raven Banner.
Nice.
George had seen it. It's can't complain. It's a great movie.
And then not to get personal with it necessarily, but the gentleman that stars in it, who was also in Wreck, he has Marfan syndrome, and nobody in my family has it, but we are a family of giants. I'm 6'5", and I'm the short one. My dad is 6'8", my uncle is 6'9", my grandma has shrunk to 6'1.5". I've got two sisters that are 6 feet and above.
Wow.
It's crazy. And so watching this, there is this odd aspect of first off, Europe is tiny, but then second off, there's so much that could be so difficult for somebody just to care for somebody that is a massive person. And it's because I've been fairly healthy most of my life, I've not had to consider it yet. And now I am worried.
Well, I'm 6'2" as well. So it's I guess that hadn't occurred to me while watching that movie. So maybe I could be worried. You're right.
It especially stuck out when the gentleman was sitting in the tub and his knees were almost in his mouth. I'm like, I've been there before. Anyway. Yeah. So this is Dekanalog. What else do you have going on? Because it seems like, I said at the beginning, you're working for pretty much everyone. You're still fairly close with Kino, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. Kino is this unstoppable beast that I can't stay on top of. But, recently, these things have been announced. They've got, there's that UHD of Night of the Hunter. We have a few interviews on that. There's a new version of Stone Cold coming out where there's a bunch of new interviews for that as well. Crybaby has a bunch of stuff. Those have all been announced, but yeah, those discs will be pretty well stacked.
Nice. It seems like Kino's really stepped up their game over the last 2.5 years, and first off, we're talking about Vinegar Syndrome being a shotgun blast. It is crazy that Kino has on any given week 6 titles, 4 of which that are must own in my opinion.
Well, then they just announced too, I think today, the UHD of Body Snatchers.
Yep.
And so they're going to take all the old stuff that I did for Olive, I think, are going to be on that disc. I think. Nice. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I'm hearing. So
once again, taking something I was going to ask about because I knew that you had a hand in that. Funny enough, it was a very Elijah heavy weekend. Not even as well as, I mean, with all of this behind me, I didn't have a choice. I think, did you have something to do with the Robin Hood release for Arrow?
I did, yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
I showed my kids and my wife that for the first time, and they were astounded at how much they loved the movie. And I've told you, this is one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, it's a solid movie. I mean, with all the things kind of going against it too. I mean, the story of just getting them to make the movie, all the odds that were against it with just all the other Robin Hood movies, Kevin Costner's fluctuating English accent. It shouldn't work, but it does, because it's a great story. I mean, Penn Densham and John Watson really, people may be wondering, if they watched that documentary that I did for it, why Kevin, the director, wasn't involved. That was his decision not to do an interview. But it's Penn and John. They're the ones that he was just a director for hire. He basically got them Kevin Costner. And he's on the commentary with Kevin as well. So we just moved ahead with that because we got all the other, people, costume designers and stuntmen, everything to talk about the movie from their perspective anyway, which I always think is more interesting personally. So it's John and Penn's story.
It's a great one, and watching it light up my kids' eyes was probably the best gift I've had in a couple weeks. It was so wonderful to see, and both of my kids, again, not to get too personal, both of my kids have autism, and my 8-year-old especially. We got done, and he was just enthralled. Immediately wanted to take up archery, which he'll be fixated on for the next 2 or 3 days at least. Then there was sword fighting. Yeah, it was an absolutely wonderful time.
And it's everything that sort of entertainment for kids has not gone away. I mean, this is a 100-year-old story, well, 100-year-old movie story anyway at this point, where it's like Indiana Jones. The story does not get old.
It's true. The other thing that made it a very Elijah-heavy weekend for me, other than Amigo, is I rewatched American Grindhouse, which you happened to direct a long time ago. Well, yes. Relatively a long time ago. There's so much in that I would love to ask. I mean, first off, are there any fun stories that have not been beaten to death over the last 13 years of telling them since that came out?
Well, I mean, it's to assume that I've been talking about it for 13 years, which I haven't.
I hope so.
I mean, well, let's put it this way. It started off as one thing and became something different, which is fine. I didn't totally understand what it was going to be. I just knew that I wanted to get all those stories on camera as fast as I could. And I knew that when Grindhouse, the movie, came out, that was going to be, that word was now going to be in the lexicon. There was no doubt about it. It's going to be there. It's going to be a new word for the old thing, which was exploitation, drive-in, whatever. So that's how it started. And I mean, I knew Jack Hill. I knew, who else did I know? I knew Ted V. Michaels. You're only one person away from finding somebody. And we got Don Edmonds, we got Ray Dennis Steckler, didn't use him, put him on that Severin box set. That whole interview that was on the Severin disc was for American Grindhouse, but just didn't fit. Nice. He's not really Grindhouse anyway, I don't think, but you're just, when you're doing something like this, there is a sort of a shock and awe approach. Just get as much as you can, and you'll find out the story. That's what we were doing. If I were to do it now, as much as I like the movie, each one of those chapters could be a movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, this was before long form 10-part documentary series was like the norm. Whether it deserves it or not, it's the normal thing now, and that back then it wasn't. So it was supposed to be just this sort of introductory piece. And I think if you were to go back and do it now, you could make a massive Ken Burns style documentary about exploitation movies in America. Not necessarily restricted to American movies, which is what we ultimately did. Obviously, there's martial arts movies and stuff like that too that we don't talk about, but it's a huge thing to unpack in less than 80 minutes. So we don't try to, but rather than just give you as much as you possibly can, make you excited, write stuff down, and seek those things out. Some of those movies have still not come out on Blu-ray. And they were barely out on DVD, I feel like, when we started that. And it's something I haven't thought about for a long time.
Well,
except for that Ray Steckler thing, that when I heard that David was putting out that Steckler box, that's like, stop the presses. I've got an unused interview. You got to take it, please.
Exclusive. Love it.
Yes.
I've got a friend of the channel that is a film professor in North Carolina that literally teaches American Grindhouse to his students every single semester. And
good. Thank you.
Just wanted to spend a lot, not a ton, but a lot on this, because it's a very important thing when you look back at literally a century of exploitation. And when the documentary covers everything, I think the first film that it talks about is 1914-ish. And then, it was released with, I think Grindhouse was the newest film, or right around then was the newest one that it talked about. That's a lot to cover. So yeah, when you're looking at 85 minutes, it's kind of a fire hose approach, and it's an intro to exploitation, but it's done in such a unique and wonderful way because you have all these super important voices in it. And again, to bring back some of that Dekanalog melancholy, I got to ask, looking back like 13, 14 years later, how are you feeling knowing that, a lot of the people involved in that have now passed? It's been a rough 14 years for the people involved.
Hope it's not a curse. A lot more of them are still around.
Yes.
Yes. I was lucky to first, like I said, I knew these people weren't going to be around. So You got to get their stories on camera. Don Edmonds was hilarious. Ted never really told the truth. Ted V. Michaels, I don't think ever really told the truth. But fine, he was a showman. Jack Hill's still around. I haven't talked to him for a little while, but Jack is around. So I'm trying to think all who passed away. We lost Ted, we lost Herschel, we lost Don.
Larry Cohen.
And Larry Cohen, I know. Larry, gosh. Larry was so funny. And just, I'd been to his house so many times, and every time I was a new person. I remember one of the last times I was there, I think we recorded the commentary for Original Gangstas. We recorded that commentary in his kitchen, on his kitchen table. And I said, Larry, before we get started, I'm going to use the bathroom. And he's like, oh, just go around the corner. He's like, oh, no, I know where it's at. How do you, I've been here before, Larry. All right. So, yeah, who else? Now I'm trying to remember who else have we.
Big one. Robert Forster.
Yeah, Robert. Yeah, I was going to say Robert and David Hess. Yeah. Robert was so kind, always. And I got to know him more when we did That Guy Dick Miller, because he was interviewed in that for a second. But we saw each other more frequently at Dick and Laney's barbecues and their holiday parties and stuff like that. And I know, pretty sure, I feel like he came to some kind of screening. Oh, that was American Grindhouse he came to the screening of. Robert was just a genuine guy. Anyone who knew him would say the same thing. I would see him a lot, and usually when I would see people, I don't really bother them. Because like Larry, they probably won't remember me. I always say to us, anonymity is sort of my secret weapon, where a lot of these people, it's kind of better if they don't know who you are sometimes, because you might have broken something and you didn't know it when you left. But Robert I would see sometimes, and he would always be super friendly. I would see him hiking very often and just out and about in West Hollywood. So yeah, it was a big surprise. I talked to Laney about that when he passed away. He kept it secret. So.
Yeah, that was a big one. Hearing that voice last night was such an iconic voice, and And
And
then
he
it got me.
looks like his voice. He looks like his voice. That's the thing too. It's like, he really he was so good looking when he was younger. There's no doubt about that. But
Yeah.
he got better with age. And man, Bob Forster, man, he was fucking awesome.
Even near the end when he played that bit part in Breaking Bad, he wasn't in it that much, but God, he was intimidating then.
Yeah, I mean, he makes an impact, and it's you can work the hardest as an actor, but I think the best actors, kind of like a Dick Miller, they come in, they make the scene, they tuck it under their shoulder, and they leave, and you don't forget them. And right. Robert had that, and it comes from a life lived, really, right?
It's very true. And I mean, Dick Miller, you could throw in there as well with how many things that he's seen over the years, and that's fits exactly in this. He's somebody we've lost in the last 14 years too.
Yep, yeah. His birthday's on Christmas. I always think about him. I saw Lainey, his wife, when I was down in LA in December. And so, yeah, I'm always talking to Lainey. She's a total firecracker. She's exactly how she is in the movie. And yeah, she hangs, she hangs out with Jonathan Hayes, Jonathan from Little Shop of Horrors. So when I'm hanging out with both of them, and it's hilarious. And Jonathan's rolling his joints and just, having a great old time.
Well, with those, I mean, is there any chance that we get like a Dekanalog double Blu-ray of both of those documentaries ever?
I don't know. I mean, those are big. Kino has American Grindhouse. It's probably going to stay there. I don't know. But in a couple of years, I feel like Lainey and I get back that guy Dick Miller, I think. So, yeah, I mean, our long-term goal is to just keep it out there. It's pretty much everywhere now. It's on Tubi, it's on Prime, it's all over the place. But yeah, it does have Subculture put out the Blu-ray. I think it was region free. Those are out there, and so I don't know. I don't know if there's a market for it to have another Blu-ray edition, but
there's a market.
Is there? All right.
Yeah.
You tell me.
Especially with somebody like Dick Miller, he's somebody that deserves as many releases as we can get him in.
I don't know what more we could possibly add to it in terms of bonus stuff, but there are a couple good featurettes on there, and yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but it seems inevitable.
Nice. All right. So, I mean, we talked about Kino. We talked about Dekanalog. One of the things that we haven't had from anybody, and not to put you on the spot with this, but what's a day in the life of Elijah Drenner? I mean, you've got like 27 jobs. How do you navigate all this? How do you keep it all in your mind straight? How do you pay attention to everything you're working on, time it properly?
Well, there's a lot of Google Calendar notes, and there's a lot of literally like a piece of paper that I write down everything on and take great pride in just crossing things off. That's one of my things to do. So lots of weekly to-do lists. But yeah, if I'm not editing something where, kind of split my time. I don't produce as much stuff now because of the catalog, but I maybe do, I don't know, 3 or 4 a year of actually just like being the person who's finding the talent, booking the talent, getting them shot and delivered. My preferred method is bringing on a producer, having them just do all their stuff, and then just getting me the files and giving me a deadline. Yeah. Heather Buckley with Kino, I introduced her to them. That worked out really well. Jillian Horvat and I, originally with Olive, I had done like the Night of the Grizzly disc. That was like their first bonus feature. A few years later, they came back to me with more stuff. It's like, I can't do it all myself, but bring Jillian. And Jillian's awesome. She's hilarious. She's one of the smartest people I know. She'll do a bang up job. Like I don't have to really have my finger in anything. The Olive signature line just sort of stopped happening. I don't know why, but all those discs were fantastic. I stand by them being some of the best, and largely because of her. And when Imprint came to me and it's like, we want it, it's like, I can't do it unless I have Jillian do it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a way of sort of keeping myself on track. I'm in a strange position where I'm an editor who needs a producer to have content delivered to me. So it's like, I can do it, but I'm more effective. I can spread it out more if I just have different producers getting me the content. And I know about things in advance. I know because we all know the same cameraman, so we all share the same Google Calendar, so I can see what's happening. Yeah. And I know when to anticipate things coming in. And I just keeping track of that, touching base, knowing that I have like the deadlines accurate. And the Dekanalog stuff kind of mostly happens in the background. The one project I was doing that monopolized a lot of my time was this. I can tell you now, we're putting out a never before seen Adam Rifkin project through Dekanalog, and it consumed a lot of my time. Adam's a good buddy. It came out of a conversation actually when we were doing the Invisible Maniac stuff, and I said, let's just do it. And we did it, and I realized, oh crap, this is going to take a lot more time to do. And it did. And just getting the video stuff finished, and then focusing on the actual package was also really stressful. But we made it barely. So that was just finished a week ago, I feel like.
Wow.
So that was tiring, but it's going to be super awesome. If anyone is an Adam Rifkin fan, no one's ever seen this, and it's pretty hilarious. So,
funny enough, a friend of mine that is a stand-up comic and TV writer in LA is a friend of Adam Rifkin, and will be salivating the moment he hears this.
Good. Nothing. It's not dark backward. I can tell you right now, it has nothing to do with. So it's not that. I hope to God that happens. Adam prevented a bad Blu-ray coming out. So I think Mill Creek had it. And Adam, being a DGA member, this is some word to the wise here. DGA members can stop home video releases. They have it in their I don't know, whatever power they have. They can have, they can stop any discs from happening. They control it. So if there's something that they don't want going out there, the DGA has the power to stop Sony, MGM, Warner, whatever from putting it out. And Adam found out there was an old master coming out of Dark Backward, and he stopped it from happening, and with the intent of it actually getting restored.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, so whenever that happens, by whom, it remains to be seen. But yeah, let's hope.
That's a good way to show that flex, too. I like that. To be able to cancel it. Yeah,
well, you should. I mean, think about a lot of movies, it's like, that's why we don't have True Lies or The Abyss. Right. There's a lot. Some directors, it's strange how many of them just don't care. I'll be honest with you. Or they're not, they just think that someone else is just doing it. And they made it. It's mostly, I think it's mostly older directors in my experience. Remember, like Norman Jewison really didn't care about the new remaster of Thomas Crown Affair. We were doing stuff with him, and he likes the movie, but he's like, I trust you. I don't. He didn't really seem that interested. Same like Larry Cohen didn't really care about stuff. It's interesting how some people really care and some people don't.
I wasn't planning on talking about this, but as somebody that is so close to it, and now that you kind of brought it up, the big like controversy with I'll be honest, a lot of the people that care too much about silly things while they sit at home and watch these is lately is like the color timing on certain discs. Like Wong Kar-wai is the easy example to go to that came out from Criterion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share any experience like why we may get only the new revised version rather than putting out both?
Well, I think it's just like I said, it's a director's preferred vision, and you can't really argue with it. And I kind of go both ways. I remember Terry Gilliam saying one time in reference to some other filmmaker going back and changing something that he called it cheating or something. It's like you were stuck with analog, stay analog, and he's of course gone back and I think he tweaked something in Time Bandits, the whatever ninth version that was on Blu-ray, and I think if it's I get it. I get the sort of nostalgia of wanting to see what you saw when you were 10 or 11 or what. But I also understand if you have the tools available to you to fix something that you couldn't fix then, that's bugged you for all those 25 years or whatever, fix it.
Yep.
And the thing is, most people probably won't know.
It's true.
So I think I can see both sides. I'm for, if Wong Kar-wai wants to change the color timing because it's what he originally envisioned and perhaps just didn't have the tools to do it, let him do it. I mean, gosh, it's still a great movie. It's just it's not as, I can't remember, is it more blue than it was yellow?
Yeah, more blue or green, one of the two, yeah.
Like that? I don't know. It's fine. It's still a great movie.
Yeah, and I'm with you as well. I for a long time would say, well, the director wants it, that's fine. But then, part of me was the understanding, if people have been watching these for 25 years and seeing it a certain way, I imagine it's a little jarring if it's your favorite film of all time. But
sure, but it's a new way to see your favorite movie. That's right.
That is a very positive way to see it.
And if in a couple of years, you'll probably forget what you were upset about.
There'll be 5 more by then anyway.
Exactly.
Any more documentaries coming from you anytime soon, or are you just too busy?
I mean, I like working on other people's stuff. I've done a lot of stuff with Jeffrey Schwartz over the past couple of years. So I helped him with Boulevard documentary about the original musical of Sunset Boulevard before what's his name did it. I'm forgetting his name right now. That's a great documentary. I helped him with his Tab Hunter documentary as well. That was fun, and did a lot of work for the Showgirls documentary. It's that you have to suffer a lot when you're making a documentary that's a standalone thing, which is fine. But it's much more creatively appealing and satisfying to just make a bunch of little movies in a year, a bunch of little tiny things, and then I can just move on to the next little thing, rather than suffering something for over a year. You're just looking at the same footage. It's fatiguing. It's really just like you just get fatigued having to push this boulder up a hill. I might do it again, but it would have to be something that I really, 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 really felt needed to exist. I did have one that I was kicking around with Jillian for a while. If I really was passionate about it, it'd be done by now. So,
I mean, that's a good way to look at it too. It's kind of inspiring for the way that people approach a lot of this stuff. Is if you're going to do it and you really wanted to, you probably would have already.
Yeah, exactly, and you really do. And it's like you have to suffer it. And I think some people like to suffer things. I think there's a lot of filmmakers are sadists. They like the abuse in some weird way, and I don't. I don't like it. I like having the collaborative experience, and but there's something that can actually get lost if it gets homogenized for too long. Personally, I think there's something really I've gone back. I'm trying to make a demo reel. I'm always trying to make a demo reel. I don't know why, but like I go back to things and there's something to be said about something done very quickly, but still good. Where it's like, man, why did you choose to do that? And those are the things you agonize over when you're making something for a really long time. An edit, a specific pan on a photo, a specific motion graphic, the size of the text. Why did I make it that big? Why did I make it that small? Why didn't I put a silhouette over it? Now, these are all the things that you just agonize over when you're making something that's really big, because that's it. That's your only choice, or your only chance. And
right.
And you want to make it as great as you possibly can. And you're dealing with people who have opinions about it, and they're seeing it as well. So, yeah, I'm kind of talking myself out of making another documentary right now, aren't I?
Well, what's funny is it's a really great way to explain. I'm sure you're familiar with it. There's a modern philosophical idea called the 80-20 law, basically, where you can get 80% of the quantity of something with only about 20% of the time. And a lot of people that are prolific, they deal with that 20% of the time, and they are done because they've hit most of what they want to just out of the park. And then you got the other people that are really stuck in that minutia of the 20%, where they're really wanting to get perfection, but that takes so much more time.
And it also doesn't exist. And it's also,
right.
it's completely subjective. I mean, it's like perfect for you. Is it perfect for me? Is it perfect for the person watching? Who knows? It's like, yeah, I also think that what you're talking about is there are people who really prevent themselves from succeeding because it's so much easier to say that it's not done yet. But it's actually really satisfying to say once or twice a month that, I crossed this thing off my list and it's gone and done and I won't ever look at it again, and I can get that master off of my hard drive. It's hogging too much space. I got to fill it in with another one. And yeah, it's I tend to not look back, but in a good way. I do go over it. I am living and breathing and eating and consuming and regurgitating that stuff while I'm doing it. But yeah, I'll give it my A game, but I know when it's done.
It's a good way to say it. And, speaking of that, how do you stay on top of everything else, consuming things just for fun?
Well, I try to watch new stuff every day. Don't always get to.
Yeah.
I'm up early. I'm also in bed very early. So it really just depends. I never used to stream as much as I do because I had so many piles of discs that I just wanted to get through. But I'm not getting through those things, so I'm going to just set them over there and forget about them for maybe a couple of years and stream some stuff, just sort of not think about it, and then cancel those subscriptions in the summertime or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And look at the stuff I have piled up.
So what about the very beginning? What originally got you into film in general?
I mean, same as anyone else watching this. I liked this. I liked movies. I always recognized, remembered directors' names and composers and cinematographers, and was just drawn to how you make those things. Even though I do documentary stuff, it's like it's kind of the best of two worlds, where it's like you like movies, so you can make little documentaries about the people who made them, and you can learn about them, and you can have the best possible film school experience just by talking to people. And I hope that those things come across in the interviews, where you're really giving people a little film history lesson in some way. That's what I liked about American Grindhouse, that it was just a sort of, exploitation 101, your first class, and then we'll talk about all these things later on. Yeah, I would say that just knowing those filmmakers and having a real love for it and a history of it too. Really, and not having any sort of snobbery to something that was black and white versus something that was in color, something that had bell bottoms, something that was more up to date. Really just liking it all.
I hate to say it, you said just like everybody else. I don't think it's everybody else. I think it's us that are the crazy ones that pay attention, that truly glean all of that information. And you can tell through a lot of the stuff that you do that you pay attention to the details like that, and it comes across.
Oh, I think so, and thank you. But it's like, it's very often time, it's like I tell people we're just gradually adding stuff that someone will put in somebody's Wikipedia entry. Someone's going to copy and paste what you did and just put it in there. They're going to distill it down. Yep. It's like, that's fine. I'm cool with that. And sometimes you discover things too, and jobs come out of just talking to someone whose house you walked into. I remember when we were doing the Dolomite stuff with Nicholas von Sternberg, went into his house, and there was this. First of all, it was a door, not attached to a hinge, but just like a slab, like a monolith, like just pressed against the wall. It's like, what is that? He says, "Oh, my dad carved that." It's like your dad, Joseph von Sternberg, carved that door out of wood. Okay, cool. What else have you got around here that your dad did? And so we were talking about, he eventually brought up Anatahan, which was his dad's final film that was never finished.
Yeah.
And I said, I bet Kino would be into that. So it ultimately happened just by meeting him and talking to him about that. It premiered, oddly enough, on my birthday in New York at Metrograph. And with that, we came back to him and scanned hundreds of photos. I mean, like Nick, I don't know if he was born in Japan, but he spent a lot of his early life in Japan. So he had all of his child pictures from Japan. And he had like the original script. He had everything. So just spent a lot of time with him learning about that movie that really hadn't been talked about since it came out. And how his father sold a lot of his own artwork and the art collection that he had procured over the years to finance the movie, and it was a big disappointment.
And that's why I love these documentaries, because stuff like this, I mean, if you never walked into the house, lots of us would never know any of this.
I don't know. Maybe I don't think a lot of people still do. I don't know if anyone knows the story, but it is out there, and it's that disc that came out. He had the negative. He had the negative still. Wow. So Kino restored the negative and got the job to go back to Meg and get the story again. So yeah, things like that happen frequently, very frequently.
With everything that you've been doing, what's been the most like surreal? Why am I in this moment, and what is my life moment for you?
Like just a strange moment, or
how did I get here? This is amazing. Giddy with excitement.
I wouldn't say that I've ever been that giddy with excitement. It's always, you kind of feel like you're a fraud, that you're going to get found out. That's the truth. And sometimes these situations are so strange, where, like with Larry, it's like, don't worry, I know where the bathroom is, Larry. And I remember Larry had his bathroom on the ground floor was all covered in President Nixon ephemera. I don't know why. I think I took a picture of it somewhere, but it was just the Dick Nixon bathroom. Things like that, the thing too is like, you're invading someone's life for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm very hypersensitive of that, because they trust you. They trust that you are going to do what you said you were going to do, that you're professional, and the camera guy is equally professional. Take off my shoes. How can I help you? What can I? It's like I remember like helping a guy's wife roll up a carpet one time because he was watching baseball and didn't want to be bothered, and so I helped her roll up the carpet because she had such horrible asthma. And anyway, things like that where you just sort of like, you just invade someone's life for a little bit. But one of the strangest experiences I had, it would have to be going to Sean Penn's house for Indian Runner. And you're going to Sean Penn's house. That's already, right. Be careful. Because it's like, do they know who we're nobody? Do they know who we are? We're nobodies.
Right.
We are so bottom of the barrel. All right. Well, they bought it. So we go in and we're setting up, and his assistant was super cool, super nice. And we're setting up, but like, there's the specter of Sean Penn just kind of looming in the house, and we're setting up and he's not there yet. And you hear a very loud yawn followed by a similarly large burp. And it's like, we're setting up and we're kind of like, trying to be sensitive to it. And he comes walking out shirtless with a cigarette just kind of hanging from his lip and just shuffles by us. It's like, what we got here? What's this going to be? Obviously, he didn't sleep the night before. What's this? I mean, I have no idea what to expect. So we just set up and it's like, okay, we're ready. And he looks like he hadn't slept. He looked tired. He had hiccups. He had uncontrollable hiccups. If you watch the interview, it's just there in the interview. But he comes in, grabs a black shirt, puts on a black shirt, sits in there, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know what this thing's gonna be like. And you look in the monitor, it's like, and he looks awesome. It's like, fuck you, man. It's like, this is just like, this is what an actor is. It's like they just that unquantifiable thing that you can't quantify. You can't describe to somebody. It's like the camera just likes them. No makeup, backlight, black shirt, cigarette.
Good to
fucking
go.
Cool, man. On pen, and he's going to talk about the Indian Runner
with the hiccups.
Yeah, with the hiccups. I cut around them as much as I could, and I remember his management wanted me to cut around a cigarette. It's like, I mean, look, no one asked me if he could smoke a cigarette, so I took it on. It's like, it's fine, it's like, we'll just keep this. Hiccups, I was more concerned about the hiccups than the cigarette personally, but and it's a great interview, by the way. It's a really great interview. That whole piece with David Morse and Viggo Mortensen is really great. That's a really great piece that sometimes these things are better than they deserve to be, and that was one of them.
Well, I mean, I'm sure one of you two did a lot of preparation for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I watched them. I mean, yeah, I watched the movie, and I had a lot. I mean, like, he talked about things that I thought that he wouldn't talk about, and so he touched on things that, his brother passed away. It was a movie about brothers. And that role, I mean, his brother, Chris Penn, was a huge impact on his life growing up, no doubt about it. And that's what he wanted to end with. And even though I had more questions, it's like, you got it, dude. That's the end.
Sean Penn.
And he's awesome. And he was very mad because this was early in the Trump administration, and Steve Bannon was the EP on Indian Runner, so he was really upset about Steve Bannon. So I didn't bring that up though.
Smart. I mean, you've got so many irons in the fire. Anything exciting that you can bring up to share with people to get anything hyped up?
I mean, I knew you were going to ask me, and I was trying to think of things. There's always a ton of stuff, but I will say, the Stone Cold Night of the Hunter, that stuff's been done and out. I mean, there is the Robin Hood disc that came out. Black Hat was just announced. We got a couple new interviews, the Arrow UHD for that, with Guy Hendricks Dias and Stuart Dryberg, the production designer and the DP. Both really awesome interviews. We obviously don't have Michael Mann, but those two interviews are, it's a fresh movie, and these guys wanted to talk about it. So
Right.
like, the memories are still like very crisp. Guy's interview was like a 30-minute long interview,
Wow.
and that was cut down. So I chose just like the best bits. Guy was really awesome, and his memory was just perfect. Stuart Dryburgh, same. I mean, this is the guy who shot the piano, shot a lot of great movies, and he was really excited to talk about a movie that most people, and they're right, think was sort of forgotten about in terms of Michael Mann movies. It was a bad title. What is that? Black Hat? What is that? What is this? But it's a good movie, and they're really good interviews. We got some good interviews on the Radiance Welcome to the Dollhouse disc that I think is coming out, if not today. Or not
I believe today is the release date.
Is it? Okay, I wasn't sure. So yeah, we got Todd Solondz and Heather Matarazzo for that. Those are really great. Heather's interview is perfection. I mean, I don't know if she's ever really talked about this movie at length, but I love that movie. And when Fran asked if I could help, it's like, yeah, I'll do that. I love that movie. And
Fran has been magical. I had him on the channel, and just listening to him, I could just listen to him for hours and hours.
He is magic. And it was a great disc. I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but those interviews are awesome. It's the special edition that deserves to be. And I'm trying to think what else. There's the Rifkin project that will be out this summer, and just in terms of there's another really good one that I can't say for Dekanalog that'll be out this summer. That's a 90. We're stepping away from some of the foreign stuff. We're not going to be so exclusive to foreign. So there's a really good late 90s indie movie coming out that really needed an HD upgrade. So we got that coming, and I'm sure I'll think of a half dozen other things when we get off the call together.
What about soundtracks? Anything else coming up on that side?
I don't know. That's a good question. The soundtrack stuff is even more back burner. I feel like it's when we have, This Is Not a Burial, which is a great movie, and if people haven't seen it, they should. It streams on Criterion along with Jeremiah's other films, Mother, I Am Suffocating, This Is My Last Film About You, and Masangoa. Both really great movies. I think Jeremiah is like a movie away from making a total masterpiece that will be just universally hailed. Completely unique filmmaker. And This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. It's a great movie. That soundtrack will be, I think it was finally successful on Kickstarter. And that soundtrack will be coming out, I don't know, sometime in the fall, probably. There's like a vinyl shortage. There's like a worldwide vinyl shortage. So those have been pushed back. But I don't know. It's when we find something, one of our titles that we like the music to, really. And we have, we may branch out and do other soundtracks. We haven't thought about that yet. So, but yeah, no immediate plans for final soundtracks.
I could see that fitting in very well with the whole Dekanalog brand.
I think so too. I think people will be into it. And we'll do some more. We did a couple. Joe Swanberg has his little VHS label, Analog, strangely enough, and they did their this Take Me Somewhere Nice, and we'll be doing one more of those this year with him. Nice. I don't know if he knows that yet, but we will be. And whether it's with him or ourselves, we don't know yet. But that'll be fun. And seems like when people buy the soundtrack, they'll buy the Blu-ray and the VHS. Yep. It's like just in case. Yeah.
I'll throw out one more time. This is, at least at the moment, the most recent Dekanalog release, Amigo. Yeah. Wonderful, absolutely great movie. The interviews on there, I know you didn't have a hand in them, but they're good. Really nice to hear Javi talk about some of his experiences. And again, as somebody that is another roaming giant on this earth, it is nice to see his experiences.
You
Oh
seem
man.
very average sized on video, so I will give you this. You seem very, not abnormally large.
I'll keep that in mind. I was deciding maybe to stand up, but yeah, I don't want it to be from the knees down.
No.
Thanks for your time, Elijah. This has
Thank
been
you.
fantastic, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can do it again eventually.
I'm here.